So the Adelsons, this is honestly a case that I haven't been following that closely until Grandma Adelson got involved. Hey AI time traveler, thank you for being here. Somebody else is trying to get in. Let me help them. Okay, got it. Hello, Gem. Love. Welcome. Awesome. I'm so happy to spend this evening with you and kind of figure this out, this case with you. Okay, guys. I'm going to pause the DMs. It would be much easier if you could not do that. Okay. So let's figure this case out together, and feel free to message me in the chat for the video here, because that's the one I'm tracking, and it's really fun. Ask any questions you want as I go. Okay, so honestly, wasn't really tracking this case until Donna Adelson got involved. That put a whole twist on it, and it's super interesting to me suddenly. So, quick summary of this case. I kind of did a very fast deep dive into it and went down the rabbit hole just a bit. So, just standard disclaimer, all this stuff's just my opinions. I can't be diagnosing anyone or giving legal advice on this. So, the Adelson true crime saga keeps on going. It started giving to us back in, let's see, the year it happened. So, in, oh, another person trying to get in, sorry. Okay. So, okay. So let's see. So this guy, it all started with the marriage of Dan Markel and Wendy Adelson. These two got married back in 2016. And a word of warning, this gets a little graphic. Whoop, table. So this is also a prime example of what happens when a mother-in-law is too involved. But the other side is, no matter how irritating your in-laws are, I'm pretty sure they're not as bad as Donna Adelson is. So, these two, Dan and Wendy, get married in 2006, and they were really quite an adorable couple. Wendy came from a good family, and Dan was a law professor at the University of Florida. But they weren't happy. They had kids right away, one after the other. 2009 and 2010, two sons, and they were living in Tallahassee, Florida, near FSU, where Dan was working. In 2012, when the boys were just 2 and 3, Dan and Wendy separated, and a year later, they finalized their divorce. You guys some of you might know how that is, that divorces are slow, but their relationship sort of. Where's Petey? Petey's over snuggling on the modem. Come here, Pete. Come here. He has a full tummy, so he's probably not going to want to bug me. Just looking at your comments here. Awesome. Thank you, guys. So these guys had 2 kids, 2 years old and 3 years old when they separated. And by all accounts, the guy was a really loving dad and staying involved. And Wendy was dating other people before they were even separated. She was on, I want to say, Match.com or OkCupid. And Dan was suspicious, and so things got kind of crazy there, and that's actually what led to their divorce. It was a big point of contention in the trial, lots of drama. Were you dating other people? Was he just jealous? And Wendy was very careful in her testimony. She was wide-eyed the whole time, giving you these big innocent eyes, very, very specific with her words. But she was dating other people, and things got a little bit rocky. They started arguing over custody. Wendy wanted to move to Miami to live near her family. Enter Charlie Adelson, her brother, and Donna Adelson, her mother. Coached? But I'm wondering what you're referring to, coached. Anyway, Wendy wanted to move to Miami, and her family really. Oh, Wendy. Yes, Wendy was very well coached. She should be well coached because she's an unindicted co-conspirator. And so was Donna until yesterday. So the unindicted part can change on a dime. And probably will. There's some really interesting body cam footage of Wendy with her lover at the time, who we saw on the stand in the case, the night that police came over and said, "Hey, your husband was just shot to death. Where are you? What's going on?" And she's like, "What? What happened? Who?" And obviously they were looking at her, they were looking at the lover, and they're just kind of sitting around talking. It's super awkward. There are also a lot of emails that came into play. Here, Arthur's right here, by the way, guys. Arthur says hi. He's very excited. There were also a lot of emails that came into play that were between Wendy and Donna. And she famously said, Donna said to Wendy, "You're a very good actress when you need to be. You need to act your heart out, and you need to remember that the primary goal of this divorce that you want out of it is to move." So that was their key goal, and they didn't make a lot of fuss about it. If you look at Donna, and I wonder if I can figure out how to do it without ending the stream, I would show you pictures and video. But Donna has a striking presence about her. She's clearly a super dominant matriarch, and she had certain ideas, and I just realized this thing's crooked. Ignore it. She had certain ideas and images about how she wanted life to be and how involved she wanted to be as a grandma, and she was going to make them happen come hell or high water. So all these emails sort of kind of tell this story, as prosecution was able to really successfully do in the case against Charlie. So I just had a question from Jem Love. Donna is Wendy Adelson's mother. Charlie is Wendy Adelson's brother. And Dan Markel is Wendy Adelson's deceased ex. So in a nutshell, what happened here is Dan Markel was killed in his house. He was gunned down by a hitman. And the hitman was hired by Wendy Adelson's family. Wendy Adelson claims she has no idea that they did this. And they claimed, here's the fun twist. They claimed they didn't hire the hitman. The hitman just helped himself to solving their problem by killing Dan Markel. And then he extorted them and asked them for money retroactively for having done the killing. I'd love to hear you guys right now what you think about that theory, because the jury didn't buy it. The jury convicted Charlie Adelson. And Charlie went on there with a really well-crafted little violin saying, "I was so scared of these people." Part where that breaks down is that it was Charlie's ex-girlfriend who was the middle woman and made the connection between Charlie and this thug who pulled the trigger. Yeah, I'm trying to get Jem. Jem, if you can see, there's a chat part that you can toggle on the right side of the screen, and you can type straight into the chat for the video so I can see it without going back and forth. Yeah, no chance in hell, Tip and Mom, I agree. There's no chance in hell that Charlie wasn't involved. I mean, okay, so he's dating this girl, And his argument is that excuse me, his argument is that he's dating this girl, Catherine Magnanoa, if I said it right. And he happens to mention to her that he's got a problem. This ex-husband of his sister's is a problem. And uh, she apparently just takes it on herself to go tell a thug that somebody wants to have this guy killed. And the guy just does it. Okay, pay me on what? On lean? Hitman on lean. Who's ever heard of that? So the argument didn't fly. Charlie also claimed that he never saw his mother the night that he saw the hitman. But there's text from him and his mother, and he said, "I'll be there in 10 minutes." And he claims that he said that even though he wasn't planning to see the mom. And it all breaks down. It would have made more sense if he said, "Yeah, I saw her, but she didn't give me money for a hitman." But I think what he was trying to do was, you know, break down, not concede anything, not give any ground to have her prosecuted after him. And that's happening anyway. Why is it happening sooner than it would have? Well, the investigators here always thought that the mom, Donna Adelson, was actually the mastermind, that she pushed it, and that Charlie was the fixer of the family. So I'm getting echoes of Alex Cox here in the fixer of the family, right? He doesn't seem like the smart one, although he was a dentist. Smart enough to practice dentistry, but not smart enough not to have. Anyway, okay, so I'm not gonna belabor that point. It was dumb. And through the trial, he got his ass handed to him, and you can see him every time they play one of these clips of, the bugged recordings and such. You can see him just cringing, like, just cringeworthy. He knows how bad it looks. And what's nuts is that if they didn't have the bugged recordings, I don't know that they would have been able to move forward with this. And if they hadn't been able to prosecute the actual trigger man and then the ex-girlfriend who pointed the finger at Charlie, I don't think they would have gotten him. And even still, it was a little bit tough of a pill to swallow, because here are these convicted murderers saying, well, we did it because he paid us. And he's saying, I paid them because they threatened me. Who is more credible, the dentist or the thugs? And I think that's what Charlie relied on, this sense of kind of outward appearance of respectability. Yeah, exactly. He's book smart, but socially, let's see what socially led by the balls. Hello, River, Addison River. Welcome. So glad that you could be here. Woohoo. So let's see. Charlie was tipping. Mama says, Charlie, care. Yahoo. All right. So glad that you're here, honey. Charlie was distancing himself when he said he wasn't there, etc. Exactly. So wonderful bridge, tipped in Mama. That's a good bridge to the idea of psychological distancing, where people who want to seem like, try to come off innocent or denying that they did something, will do two things. It'll typically severity soften, whereas instead of saying, I didn't murder that woman, they'll say, I didn't hurt that woman, if they really did it, right? They're going to kind of go softer on the action itself, not really describe it as murder, maybe just like killing, something that's less harsh. And they'll also distance themselves from it. So that'll come with using third person speech, like what's an example of third person speech in he was hurt versus, or he was killed versus I murdered him, right? Like they'll use this self-removal language. And we see that a lot with Charlie in very, very small examples and big examples too, with his, shooting the moon kind of arguments on this. Oopsie, he fell on the knife. Exactly. It's really hard to sell. Just super silly. And these kinds of arguments are, I guess they're worth making if you're kind of going for jury nullification sort of idea, that anything to justify getting him off. But in this case, I don't think you have a jury that wanted to excuse this guy. You had a jury that wanted to hold someone accountable and just simply didn't believe that he wasn't a pivotal linchpin in this process. And I think they're well on their way to holding Donna accountable as well. Now, just said from the perspective of a woman who's gone through life with many, many female relatives and knowing many, many women. Donna absolutely strikes me in every way as a woman who has to be in control at every point in time, and probably was an absolute, complete, and total nightmare in law. In fact, we know that Dan Markel, this was a point of contention in the custody. He didn't want Donna and Charlie alone with the kids. He thought that Donna was a religious nutcase and she was a zealot, and he didn't want her influence. He also thought that she was creating, problems in terms of trust and parental distancing and alienation with the kids. And he wanted her to have visits, but only supervised visits, because he just didn't trust them and wasn't comfortable. So Dan Markel's instincts here were spot on. The guy was wicked smart, and he was winning the custody battle. So there were all these jokes going back and forth about Charlie saying, at one point when she got a new place, Wendy got a new place, Charlie gave her a TV. And he kept repeating this joke. I looked into hiring you a hitman, but the TV was cheaper. Ha 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 ha. Everybody thought it's so funny. He just kept saying it. Well, I don't think it seems so funny now, because now Wendy's ex-boyfriend is talking about it. Everybody's talking about it. Everybody he made this joke to. And it's super cringe because somebody hired the guy. Right? I don't know. TVs can be pretty expensive. What kind of TV was it? Anyway. Also, it was clearly a ghetto hitman. I mean, like, he rolled on him, he got caught. Discount. Yeah, not the brightest guy. No. Smart, but no courage in certain ways. Yeah, book smart, no courage. Yes, exactly. Discount hitman. I love these comments. All right, so let's keep going with our narrative, shall we? Donna, right? Nightmare extraordinaire, probably has made one or two women who have dated Charlie miserable as possible. We certainly know the men who have dated Wendy. She helped to end one of them, right? He's a nightmare person. And nobody thought Charlie had the brains or the courage to put this together, but was rather following the orders of mommy dearest. I don't know anybody who would do anything like that. Anyways, exes can suck, right? And in-laws can suck, but hopefully yours doesn't suck this much. This poor guy, he can't move to Miami. He's living in Tallahassee, where FSU is located. He's a professor. He can't just transfer to the local division, right? His life is there. He wants to be a dad. She wants to move a 7 to 8 hour drive. Florida's big. Tallahassee is about 480, almost 500 miles away. So she wants to go over there, and this would really preclude dad from spending much time with the kids. It's a few hours on flights, pain in the butt to travel that often. So he was fighting her. And remember, he's a law professor. She's smart, she's well educated, and so is he. And she wasn't hacking the argument. So, hi, you guys, this is great. So enter this argument of we need to take Dan out. Amazing. They thought they needed to end this guy for no reason other than they wanted her to live closer. So the Adelsons are super influential. They have an organization. Donna has an organization, and one of the ways that they reached her was to pose as one of the thugs and call her and see what she said. An undercover detective called, and that's a really interesting call, which I'll probably post for you as well, along with the other footage. Hey, MPEL, a time traveler. Artichokes for $2 at Kroger. I'll keep that in mind. I'll be doing some steaming later. He left versus he died. Yeah, exactly. Tipped and Mama, good example of severity softening. No, he's not here anymore versus he's dead, right? When he left versus when he died. So that's an excellent example. Yeah, it's super odd what lengths people will go to. It was completely irrational for them to put themselves on the line. So now we're getting to the best part, which brought us here today. You guys, this is so fun. All right. So Donna, Judgment Day for Donna coming around. Charlie, just a few days ago, he gets convicted. Jury says, no way, don't believe it. And they convicted him. This was a devastating blow to the family because guess what? If the jury buys Charlie was guilty, which was already kind of a, it's always a long shot when you're dealing with conspiracy and not somebody actually pulling the trigger. It's a long shot anyway because it's a high burden of proof. So they weren't going to pull the trigger on indicting Wendy or on indicting Donna until something else happened, right? I.e., a conviction. She gave them not only a conviction, but a suspicious as hell jail call. So Donna calls Charlie and she tries to talk in code. It's pulling one of those Corey walk the dog tricks. She said that she was making arrangements so that the grandkids, and we don't have a version of this call, by the way, just what detectives said, that she was making arrangements so that her grandkids would be taken care of, everybody would be taken care of, and we still want to end stream, and to go basically. So when they heard this call, they were already, watching her. They were already getting ready to move on arresting her and trying to get a warrant. So they went and expedited the warrant and they got it around 5 p.m. and they went for her around 8 p.m. because they figured she's either going to end things in an extreme way or leave town, split town, and they won't get her. And Wendy wanted to leave and go to Florida, and she cheated. Who died? Yeah, okay. Carrie's catching up here. Somebody catch up, Carrie. Short version: Wendy and Dan are married. Charlie is Wendy's brother. Donna is Wendy's mother. Wendy and Dan get divorced. Charlie and Donna want Wendy to move to Miami from Tallahassee, and Charlie and Donna mastermind a hitman to kill Dan, which happened. Charlie just got convicted of the murder, and now Donna has been arrested. Yes. Oh, crap. So where did they find Donna? Not at home, not at work, not at her organization. No, they found her on a tarmac in a plane getting ready to take off to Viet Nam, where this Einstein thought they won't extradite. They got there by 8 something. The plane was getting ready to take off, and they had just had their warrant for 3 hours. So I can only imagine the hat and mouse game that started to find where she was and figure out where she was going. One-way ticket. Exactly, Joe Tipton. One-way ticket to Viet Nam. Like, that's not suspicious. You guys, I can't get a one-way ticket to Tennessee without getting stopped and having everything I have searched and my identity checked and coming up with beepers and flags everywhere. You want to get pulled for a search? Get a one-way ticket. But somehow she got through security. Who knows? I even had that upgraded security thing. Yeah, exactly. I had for a while when I was traveling for work, I had the fast pass at the airport, whatever the equivalent was, where you just skip the line. And even then, if I had a one-way ticket somewhere, which I often did, bouncing from Arizona to Texas and Texas to Niagara and over to Canada and things like that, you betcha I would get flagged. So this woman with a lot of money is just running with her resources, bunch of cash, all this stuff. I'm not sure how much cash she had on her, but she's heading to Vietnam. Well, unfortunately, she's not going anywhere any longer. She's in jail and she's not even reunited with her son because, separate boys and girls. Uh, so unfortunate situation for the Adelsons. Wendy, I can imagine, is shaking in her boots right now because she's that third unindicted co-conspirator looking guilty as sin. Um, and I just can't imagine being in their sphere right now. Okay, yeah, what was the question? Vietnam does not extradite. Fun fact, there's no extradition agreement or treaty with Vietnam, but that doesn't mean they won't extradite. It just means there's no agreement. If there's a big case like this, a lot of evidence, Vietnam might not want that person. They may just choose the option. They may exercise an option to extradite if we asked nicely. So the woman's really silly. Where she should have been heading was some South American country who is broiling in people who are taking off. A place that doesn't have great relations with us, Russia or some crap like that, right? But I'm guessing that maybe she was constrained in where she could get a visa to in her short time limit. Right, they have to be in the mood, exactly. It's one of those things where, just because it's not a must, it's a may, right? So you ask the right person and sure, they might do it. Did their wife kiss them before they left for work that day? Or they in a mood to have an axe to grind? There's a lot of things you can get from different people on different days. So she may well have been extradited. Vietnam, she did her research. She premeditated. Yes, Jam Love. She premeditated all over the place, but in a super messy way. I mean, who texts about doing murders? Okay, you guys, come on. If you're gonna do crimes, don't text about it. Put that shit in writing. Right? So cardinal rule, in fact, don't drive, don't text, don't Google, don't write it down, don't have your phone on, don't search and then delete, don't email anyone, don't especially take your car, telemetry data, also cameras. You're going to want to take a horse or a mule, possibly a camel. Change your entire appearance first and ditch your phone, not only just before, but in a pattern regularly so that that time wouldn't seem unusual. You're going to want to start planning like a year in advance and not effing up your lives. So, fun fact, when I got my degree in criminology too long ago, longer than I'm going to actually say to date myself, the average solve rate for murders was 50%. Stupidly low. Yes, I agree. The cat emoticon is rad. Okay, so they weren't really solving a lot of murders. And that's gone up to crazy high. Some districts have up there in the 80-90%. You get attention, you get high you get a lot of attention for something like this, you better bet that somebody's going to track down some data and they're going to ask enough people and it's going to point back to you and they're going to be happy to make their career on making the case against you. So, I guess maybe just don't kill people. Maybe just, move to Tallahassee. I suppose, what do you guys think? Why wouldn't Donna and dentist Charlie, the family fixer, the Alex Cox of the Adelsons, why wouldn't they just move over to Tallahassee? Another thing is, another good example of psychological distancing here and derealization, depersonalization. of Dan before he was killed is that they had a nickname for him. It was so cringe watching Wendy read the emails between herself and her mom because they called Dan Gibbers. I don't know why. A lot of people nickname their exes. They nicknamed him. She said it was so she wouldn't be afraid of him. But she also goes on to say he was not abusive and she had no reason to fear him. So it was more just mean, right? To be insulting and to dehumanize him. So they were calling him Gibbers the whole time. Yeah, exactly. A dehumanization. It's much easier to, just sort of make plans through somebody to make plans that they will take care of it when the person doesn't even have a real name or identity, right? They're not thinking of them as the father of these kids. And clearly, they're not thinking rational at all because there's no way it's good for the kids for their father to be mowed down. So insane, right? Insane. Okay. So, any questions, you guys? Throw questions at me. I did my research. I did some homework. Come on. All right. Well, meanwhile, I'm going to check over my other notes on this and see what else there was to say, which I accidentally closed the window. Okay. Moving to Tallahassee sounds like that. Yeah, I think we have a visitor. Come here. Say hi. I love you. Hi. He's just here to be a jerk. Come on, jump up. Ah, you almost got me. Ah, the Petester is here. Okay. So Miami is just a super different vibe. I've never been to Tallahassee. I've been to Miami, and I guess I can imagine if you're rich and you're comfortable, you know, you probably wouldn't want to leave Miami and your foundation. So I guess all the moms, I think it really comes down to Donna, the mother, and all her social connections being there and her being the one in control, right? She's the matriarch. And it comes down to her role as the matriarch and exercising this power. She wasn't going to be beaten. And she has this quote that was in the email that the prosecution, I guess, almost could have ended on. It said, Gibbers hasn't beat the Adelson family yet. And when they had her read that out, that was so chilling, you guys. The lengths she was willing to go through that weren't rational, right? Evil little man. I hope you're talking about Pete. Yes. Or were you talking about Charlie? I'm not sure which. I don't know. They're both mean. Excuse me. No one's comfortable in Miami. The heat and humidity are miserable. Tip to mama. Yes, I agree. Crime statistically goes up in heat and really hot days. If you look at it as a graph, it just goes boom. So maybe they were just a little too hot. Maybe some air conditioning could have saved Dan Markel's life. Maybe some dehumidification. I'm sorry, I like a little humor to go with my crime and murders. Like Bruce Rivers says, nothing like a little homicide between friends, right? Especially with conspiracy. I should have made popcorn. All right. Any other questions does anyone have? Or I'm going to just keep running through and then close this up by 8. Ew. All right. So yeah. Back to, I think the key point here is that the Adelsons were willing to go along with the custody dispute as long as they thought that they were winning and they had an angle and they could manipulate it. And Donna was specifically coaching Wendy on what to say and what to do. And it wasn't until they realized that they weren't going to win that they decided, nah, not going to do that. Not going to make that drive. Not going to, have this distance. Not going to share. And one of the really notable moments in the trial, oh shoot, I lost my quote. I'm going to have to come back to that notable moment. So just a minute on Dan. I want to give a moment to talk about Dan. He was brilliant. He was only 41 when he died. He was killed in his home, and he was a legal scholar who worked at Florida State University. He was, by all accounts, a really good father who loved his kids and wanted to be involved. And he died on July 18th, almost 9 years ago. So it took a lot of time for his family to get justice in this case. And yeah, pretty sad. Yeah, they are deranged people, right? This family running up against this family, my gosh, they're just twisted, completely twisted. Tipton Mama says, Mama Adelson thought she could literally buy someone's soul. Yeah, absolutely. She had money, right? She came from money. She was spoiled. She was entitled. And yeah, absolutely. She thought that she could buy anything, including buying this guy off the earth. And the scary thing is, she did it. She just didn't get away with it. And she still hasn't learned a damn thing because she's still going around, trying to outrun the consequences of her monstrous actions. I want to see if I can figure out, as I get to the end here, how to put up a photo, because Donna Adelson's mugshot is something to behold. It really is. So I want to see if I can figure out, Jack, what did you say you heard twice already today? Oh, I know exactly what you're talking about. That's funny. Bet you never heard it before and then twice in one day. All right, Jack Rowell, thank you for your comment. Let's see what else is going on here. Yeah, there are people who will do it for nothing. Exactly. Yeah. Okay. So, yep. All right, I think I've caught up on my comments there. So another thing about Donna, I'm going to say while I'm trying to figure out how to put up a picture, and if anyone's figured out how to do that, scream it out because I don't know. Is I'm getting Lucille Bluth vibes from Donna. And if you've ever watched Arrested Development, you know who I'm talking about, Lucille Bluth. If you haven't, go watch it immediately. Drop whatever you're doing. Why are you watching this? Watch Arrested Development. But if you have, right, Lucille Bluth, totally. Like I expect her to walk through with a glass of Merlot, looking down her nose at you. She's really got those vibes. Yeah, yeah. Carrie knows, Lucille Bluth. Okay, so I really, I feel sure I can show you documents. I just have no idea on Green Earth how to do that. Pop out dashboard. I'm just gonna go ahead and put them up as a short afterward to follow this and give you the real time. Like here's the players, and a little chart for you maybe. Wendy, Dan, Charlie, Donna, and maybe the kids on the other side. So is that something you guys would want? Thumbs up, thumbs down. It's some I can throw it together tonight, probably. And I'll throw it in the comments. I'll link to it in the comments. I'm cutting out. Ooh, crap. Am I cutting out for other people? River says I'm cutting out. Okay, yeah. She says, yes, we do want the photos. So we want to see. Oh, I have a suddenly brilliant idea. What if I show you like this really quick? I think I can do that. Yeah, I think I can do that. Okay, you guys. Mama Adelson. Here we come. Wouldn't you love to be her daughter-in-law or son-in-law? She looks really sweet, right? There was a great moment where the prosecutor, well, I don't know who was questioning, but oh, hi, camera. Okay, so Wendy was being questioned on the stand, and they asked her if Dan knew that Donna really didn't like Dan and was pushing for Wendy to move. And Wendy says, no, no. After that, he had her babysit and mother baked him banana bread. So no. And she just kept saying she baked him banana bread. It's like she had to keep slipping that in. And I can picture Wendy I can picture Donna telling her daughter, mention the banana bread. Can't you just imagine that? She looks like so River says, Donna, she looks like she'd yell at the cashier for giving her something for free. Yes, she does. I'm not fond of the derogatory Karen, but she looks like a dead on Karen. She really does. And I hate to judge somebody by their appearance, but the look in her eye, man, her expression. Like Scott Rouse from the behavioral panel says, no, it's not Scott, it's Greg Hartley. Greg Hartley says, when people have fucked up things on their face, when the lines are fucked up, it's because their life's been fucked up, right? Your face shows literally the lines of how you live, the expressions that you're in all the time. Your face changes shape over time. And she's got a face of she's got RBF. Yeah, River, I agree. You try not to judge people by their looks, but appearances can tell us a ton of how people have lived their life and what their life is now. And while it doesn't tell you anything about their motivation or what's moving them, it tells you a lot about the mood that they spend their time in. So you can see a baked in scowl. So that's what I'm talking about. I'm talking about expressions and behaviors that are subtle that lend to appearance that we can pick up by our eyes. I'm not talking about literal, facial characteristics or body characteristics. I'm talking about things that come from baked in from behaviors over a long period of time that change the way our bodies look. So there's a reason why we say people sometimes we'll call somebody ugly. I'm not a big fan of that word either, but again, I'm not talking about judging someone by their body. I'm talking about a judgment of their showing up in the world in a ugly way with ugly behavior. So that's kind of my statement on that. Tip to Mama, ask your 2 questions. Yeah, like a teardrop tattoo, time traveler. Thank you, Jack Rowell. Thank you. Okay, tip to Mama, questions. I need to get another monitor up here so I can see the questions. I'm waiting for the questions. Who has the kids now? I think they are with Wendy. I'm gonna just go ahead and look that up while we chat and find out. They're with their mother. Yeah, Wendy still has the kids. Because remember, Wendy hasn't been charged with anything. She's unindicted co-conspirator. There's no abuse alleged of the kids other than possibly depriving them of their father, but that's not proven. You can't just go around taking kids from people. So, and ostensibly she's living near the family. Although I'm thinking she's going to have to move if she wants to be near her mother and brother again. And chances are the women's facility is not in the same place as the men's facility. So who's she supposed to live near now? They have created they have worsened the problem a thousandfold. Right. Okay. Trying to catch up with these chats here. Bear with me. Okay. So, so yeah, I just want to reinforce that never am I advocating judging someone by their physical characteristics that they cannot help. I think that we should read into and make reasonable assumptions from things that people can control, and those parts of them that change through life, right? Through nurture, and not just nature. Okay. How do we know how much they paid for this murder for hire? Because the guys who did the murdering and the girlfriend, ex-girlfriend of Charlie, who was the middle person, they testified to it. And I think it was $5,000, $6,000 is what he paid. It's a going rate for a murder. Horrible. They get this dude on Craigslist, like, or Reddit, right? Pull Brian Koberger. Just go and ask on Reddit. There's a movie, side note, there's a movie called Mr. Right, Anna Kendrick, a dude I can't remember. And there's this scene where a bunch of goons are having a shootout with other goons. And they're like, "Where'd you get these guys?" And he's like, "Well, I put out an ad on Craigslist for experienced gunmen," or something like that. River, Reddit was where Brian Koberger did the ad. That's why I say that. Yeah, it's Brian Koberger is the one who put out the ad asking for people to answer about their motivations, after committing violent crimes and how they pick their victim. It's a deranged, uh, absolutely deranged way that he followed through on that. And anyway, it's not about him, but I did a live on him last night, my first live, very short, very much a dud, had no idea what I was doing, didn't advertise it. Probably will do another one with him. If you guys are interested, love to have you. It's the 1-year anniversary of the Idaho 4 murders, so we'll probably pick that up maybe tomorrow or next week or something. Yeah, deranged, exactly, completely deranged. Not deranged to study criminology and the motivations of people, to interview them, to talk with them, all that's not deranged. It can be. It depends on the person, depends on their motivation, like anything else. There's a type of person who uses professional authenticity to mask their inner weirdness, and sure, a lot of people do this. Going into criminology for me was a hunger to understand based on my personal experiences. But for him, it was a very different type of personal uh, drive that he was trying to make sense of that I don't think most of us could touch. And get notification. Okay. The going rate. Yeah. The going rate for your soul is, I think, $6,000. Groupon. Got my asthma going up here. So funny, you guys. Petey's back. Hi, Petey. Or we could just sick Petey on him. This vicious creature right here. Aren't you? You're so mean. Yeah. Are you going to talk? Or just squeak at us? You're going to pretend you don't talk. Okay. All right. That's the famous Pete, the vicious creature. All right. What else is a great question? 2 for 1. Was it a 2 for? No. This was a single deal. No combining deals. No mixing promotions. Valid for one victim only. So twisted. Yes, Gem Love, Brian Koberger put out an ad on Reddit, asking people who have committed violent crimes to tell him what was going on in their mind and how they selected their victims. The wording of it is nothing you would expect to see on an academic paper, although you might try to find out how they selected their victims. The way he worded this and he did this for his master's in criminology at DeSales University before he started the doctorate over at WSU. And the way he worded it was just nothing short of bright, brilliantly red flags for a completely deranged person. And, this is coming from Scout's Honor over here, from somebody who studies this. There is a way to do it legitimately, and then there is the freaky person who hides their sociopathy through a legitimate excuse to indulge in all this, and he was likely using it to fantasize and escalate in those fantasies until he did crazy things. But that's another case entirely, and a different motivation. And the thing about the Adelsons here was that it was a family drama and a motivation of greed, but not greed for money. They had all the money they wanted. It was greed for power, and greed for control over who was raising these kids, without regard for what was good for them or really any foresight as to how the situation would end for all of them. Jem, Koberger, you guys seem to be interested in Koberger. Koberger did it before he did the killings, allegedly. He did it while he was studying for his master's at DeSales University. And it was part of his master's thesis. I would love to get a hold of that master's thesis. Haven't been able to see it. Only have seen the Reddit survey, and I can publish and comment on that. It's available in other places, but I have been wanting to maybe comment on it, talk about that. Yeah, it was well before. I want to say it was like 2 years before. And the prevailing theory is that it was a real life contemporary sort of Raskolnikov from Crime and Punishment, a man who wanted to commit the perfect murders and spent a lot of time doing it and basking in the fantasies of it, and started to birth that idea back when he did those. And then they think later he probably ran into Maddie Mogan and Xana Kernodle at the Mad Greek and developed an obsession with Maddie. It's believed, the families believe, that she was the target. It's also believed that she was the first person he attacked. And it's graphic, but after he killed Maddie, the knife sheath got left under her body. And then Kaylee would have gotten sort of pinned between her best friend's body and the wall behind the bed where he then came after her. So a lot of people said it was probably Kaylee. They speculated about her dating life and things like that. But Brian Koberger was a vegan. The Mad Greek was the only real vegan restaurant in town. She worked there, and he had been following her, I think 2 of them at least, on social media. And the gag order has really precluded knowing it for sure, but the families believe it was Maddie. And they talked about that on the 60 Minutes episode. All that was kind of new facts that came out. Really horrible, really horrible. And that was for Rivers' benefit. That was the case of the college students, Idaho 4, who were slain in the college house. So Koberger's college paper smells like a dossier. Right, exactly. That's a great term, Gemlove. Thank you. Yeah, I think people think it was probably more of a dossier than an academic paper, though it did get him his master's. But speaking from a perspective of somebody who's successfully done the master's project, do a lot of research that then had to have a faculty advisor, a couple of them actually, from the beginning and the end. If you're doing specialized work or you're doing really niche research, your advisor might not know any more than you do about it. They'll probably not know as much as you do. And in fact, you'll be the authority, and they'll just be looking for your form and content and formatting, the way you cite, the fact that you cite, the way you lead to facts. And then they're going to look at your citations and see that your theories kind of hold water, but they're not necessarily going to know more than you. So depending on how you wrote that paper, I mean, I've been on the other side at a school or in the admin offices where your alarm bells are going off, but it's not enough to take to anybody and do anything about it. So even if it seemed exceedingly creepy, what are they going to say? Our criminology student was studying weird criminal things. Like, it just wouldn't, And then that work presumably got him into WSU, Washington State University, to pursue his doctorate in criminology, which is where he was when the crimes happened. So chilling. And of course, they expelled him. He was only a few months in. He actually, a prevailing theory as well is that losing his job as a TA is what kind of triggered him into doing these things a year ago, right now, right before Thanksgiving. The students had complaints about him. They found him creepy. They found him off-putting and rude. He didn't show up, things like that. So they had a meeting with him, and they ended him as a teaching assistant. And then he went off and did these things right after that, purportedly. I have to say purportedly. It's all alleged. He hasn't been convicted. That is the theory. Yeah. M stands for masters. Yeah, I guess it does. Yeah. So yeah, I mean, unless you do really, really, really shitty work, your faculty advisor is going to pass you, and they're not going to do a lot of correcting that isn't really obviously unsound writing and academic content. So, their instinct sucks, Gem Love says. Well, their instinct could very well, have been setting off flags, but not necessarily a mechanism to do something about it until it rises to a certain level. Let's see. Also remember the comments he made in a bar. Right. So Koberger had a history as well. I guess we're talking about Koberger. He also had made comments in a local bar that made one of the bouncers or bartenders, I think, so uncomfortable that they banned him from that bar. And this is not one of those cases where people look back and say, oh, we never would have known. He seemed so normal. People say vacant stare, kind of weird style, didn't fit in. And he had a known problem with drugs, including hard stuff like heroin and methamphetamines. So that, I'm sure, screwed with this brain chemistry to a really serious level. He just wasn't accepted socially. He would put himself out there and say, hey, can I come hang out with you? Can I come? And people would be nice and include him, but he was not a liked guy. Everybody's like, yeah, Koberger. Go on, talk about Koberger. Guys, you want to stream again about Koberger and do all the updates in that case on another date, maybe later this week. And I will have practiced putting up photos and learn how to do that. Maybe even streaming some video, figure that out. Well, okay, it's 8:00. I'm going to close this up for people. It's late. And I jumped in straight to this after work, so I haven't eaten dinner, so I'm going to do that. This has been incredibly fun. River, was he just awkward or was he actively harassing people? They say at the bar, he was actively harassing the bartender and saying things that made her feel uncomfortable. So not just awkward, like unsafe, uncomfortable, like enough to ban him. At the schools, he was just awkward. And I guess rude and a bit insulting, right? Like, I would say extremely awkward. To end somebody's teaching assistantship, that requires, I would say, some really serious complaints. So they were aware of him as a problem. Another interesting thing about him is he took, I can't recall her name just now. I want to say Catherine something or other, but there's a professor at DeSales University who's famously known for her book on the BTK killer and all of her interviews and research on him. And she teaches a course on profiling the criminal mind of a serial killer and a mass murderer. And he took her class. She got a huge influx of requests afterwards to talk about that. And she has said, I'm not saying anything. And I'm sure the students in the criminology program, in fact, a couple of them have said that they were told, don't talk to people. I think that administrative messages were like, we don't encourage this discussion about him, because these are respected academic institutions. criminology is a respected social science, and it's fought to get there, to legitimize it and to make the strides it has to incorporate things we know about memory and other social sciences into the justice system, which is severely flawed, but it improves the system, right? The field improves the system. The study of it improves the system. And, there's a lot of people will say there's 3 types of people who study criminology. 1, the altruistic; 2, the one that wants to understand others; and 3, the one that wants to understand themselves. And to that, I would say I don't know that true altruism exists. That would start an entirely new theory. So there's a foundational assumption there that I don't know that I buy. We're social creatures, so anything that's good for the group is, again, going to be good for us. So, yeah, I don't think that we could separate the two. And then the second part is, we are complex creatures, extremely complex creatures. And our ability to step outside of ourselves and empathize and put ourselves in the shoes and perspective of another, even another who we want to distance ourselves from, who scares us, who we find that we don't want to understand. The necessity for us as a group to understand that it's good for everyone. I'm not sure I'd call that altruistic, but usually those of us who go into it are also seeking to understand something about their personal experiences, but a wide range of those things for everybody, right? Wide range of those things. So, yeah. Yeah, exactly, Jem. He had many, many complaints against him. Yeah, vivid threats at the bar. I'm not exactly sure what his words were, but threats. I think it was. Yeah, I agree that I think it was the nature. If I recall right, allegedly threats. The Mad Greek has been really loud about saying, no, he didn't meet here. He didn't find them here. He didn't come here. He didn't eat here. But people who work there and who go there have off the record said, yeah, he did. He's easy to recognize. If they say they saw him, I don't know. Chances are they may have seen him. Oh, that reminds me of the eyewitness testimony from Dylan Mortensen, DM. She's one of the surviving roommates. And while I am always suspect of eyewitness testimony because of the vulnerability of memory, especially scary memories, this is a really unique one that has a high chance of validity. It has a lot of aspects of validity. First of all, the suspect was not identified at the time that she gave the description of him. And 2, his appearance is super unusual. It's distinctive. And the things she described about him before knowing about him or ever seeing him were very distinctive. His height, his build, his super bushy eyebrows, the mask, distinctive. So the fact that she says she saw that long before they figured out that he had the car and all the other things, all those circumstances are really kind of stronger than a lot of eyewitness testimony of, I say a first person victim might be, or even somebody who got a good look at them and knew who the suspect was before they described them. So, or somebody who's just more average, right? She's got a lot going for her in that sense. Jem says he had ideologies and fantasies toward the waitress and openly said them at the bar. Yeah, I'm gonna have to research that a little bit more. I'm not sure what happened at that bar. Very, very interesting. He's probably pretty drunk. Yeah, yeah. So the other thing about Dylan, you guys, everybody in retrospect can say, oh, she heard crying, she heard a noise, she saw this guy. This was a huge party house. If you were renting a room where people were coming, going, and noisy all the time, and you knew people were there and they were drunk and loud, and at parties, people cry drunk, get messy drunk. And this, these were good kids, but they did that. People at the house did that. We know that from the noise complaints of videos that were wild. They were kids. They were living life. They were in that phase where they were binging things and figuring things out probably. And that happened. And I lived in a house with 6 bedrooms where there were 6 of us, 7 if you count one of the girls' boyfriends who was always there. And then you add a 9th. And then one of the guys was a total slut puppy. And he was constantly having girls in and out all the time. Another girl would like go on a break from her boyfriend and new guys would come over. And, there was even once where one of there was an adjoining bathroom in my bedroom. And one of the girls' boyfriends walked into my bedroom as he was trying to leave the bathroom because he was drunk. And he walked there and I woke up seeing him standing there at my bed. And, if in retrospect, if something had happened or somebody had died in that house, like I'd be, like, oh, I should have known. But weird things happen in college houses. People are behave in random ways. I mean, you could see a flipping horse walk through and you'd be like, stuff happens. And in a place where these violent crimes don't happen, it's unheard of. You're not going to be thinking that. I lived in another house where I rented a room. That place was a 4-bedroom. It was about, I don't know, probably 3,500 square feet, sweeping terrace stairs. And I had a bedroom upstairs. I was in there with a dog that was a guard dog, like a really, aggressive to strangers guard dog. And he was in that room with me. I came downstairs that morning. Everything was normal. Super, super early. Went back upstairs, stayed home from work that day, like I never do. My car was parked around the corner, not in the driveway. I was sick, and I just laid in bed with my dog on my bed. I went downstairs around 10 a.m. A few hours later. Place was cleaned out. Somebody had come in during a storm with pounding, pouring rain and heavy winds, and taken out a huge TV. And my iPod, no, not my iPod. They took random things and left other things. It was weird. But, I had to call the police that day. And point is, everything in retrospect seems obvious. But we go through life not noticing a lot of random stuff and only making patterns known to us in retrospect. So poor Dylan has probably a lot of survivor's guilt because nobody really knows why he didn't go into these other 2 bedrooms and kill these other roommates. So not only did she live through it, she saw the guy and didn't think anything of it until after. Yes, Jem, it was Blazer Boy. Blazer was known to bite. Right, exactly. Tipton, Mama. None of them were complicit I mean, hearing crying and seeing a strange guy on a night where everybody was partying, it meant nothing. One of them was trying to call her boyfriend. I mean, I really think that were I Dylan, and I have been there in almost identical circumstances, other than nobody died, right? I actually wouldn't think anything of a door opening or shutting. People would leave the door unlocked. I mean, now I would never do it, but that was normal. How do you know when all your roommates are coming and going? How would you know something's up or somebody shouldn't be there or they didn't invite a friend over? It's too much activity to keep up. Yeah, hindsight. Exactly. Yeah, poor woman's going to have guilt, her whole life and have to deal with that. And then other people demonizing her, saying she should have known. How should she have known? These guys. No, I don't think she should have known. Okay, well, guys, I'm going to close it up. We went late. Any other questions? Last questions. And then I'm going to say sayonara, good night, buenas noches, bon, I forget. I'll remember the French version. And keep it salty with this stuff. And I think we should do another live. Very fun. Thank you, guys. Definitely going to do it again. Yeah, she couldn't have known. All right. Good night. The shoe print. For Fun RC says, explain the line shoe print. Line shoe print. Not sure what you're referencing about the line shoe print. Sorry, I don't want to give you random information without knowing what I'm talking about. The lone shoe print. Oh, snow. That's how I explain the lone shoe print. I think probably he turned around and powdered, um, the snow over his prints. It was fresh snow, and I think he probably literally covered his tracks and missed one, the same way he missed the knife casing ending up under Maddie's body because his adrenaline was probably just pumping, and he's trying to cover his tracks while he's sneaking out. And we know he left very calmly and quietly because Dylan saw him do that, saw him walk right by and look right toward her. So he was probably walking out, and by the time he got out, I can imagine his heart was racing, but he's like, "Act like nothing's happening. Act like nothing's happening." Cover those tracks. So I don't know. That's my guess about why there was only one shoe print. Obviously, in if there is no explanation to the contrary, that which is left, says Sherlock Holmes, right? The only explanation that's left, no matter how unlikely, is probably the explanation, right? Oh, for fun RC. So you're giving me new information about this. I don't know about what Dylan's shoe print for fun RC. Tell us more about that. Super curious about that. Dylan had a lone shoe print. That's worth. I'm going to look that up and research it, and I'm sure I'll bring it up in my next video because I have no idea what you're talking about. Dylan's lone shoe print. Yeah, I don't know about that. What's Okay, let's look this up real quick while I've got it. Dylan Mortensen. I'm not seeing anything of relevance about that. Um, let's see. Yeah. Um, yeah, this sounds like maybe a little bit of a conspiracy stuff to me. I'm not seeing anything about that. She lived there, so I don't know what to tell you. Attempts to clean it outside Dylan's door. Interesting. The guy walked right by her door, and she shut it and locked it. So I'm not sure I can explain. So she opened her door after hearing thuds and crying. She opened her door and saw the guy walking. She made eye contact with him, but doesn't think he saw her. She was in the dark. She shut her door and locked it. He would have gone right by her door. So, I mean, the guy clearly tried to clean up after himself. Yeah, I would have done the same thing. I would have absolutely done the same thing. So I'm sorry, I thought you were talking about shoe prints outside. I know that there was some question about that. Um, okay. Yeah. So I think Dylan's instincts were right. I would have done the same thing. You're living in a communal environment. This is not your brother, it's not your family. You might be friends and you take pictures together, and that's cool. But you go to school together, you don't know each other's friends, and you lock your door, and that's your privacy. Okay. You know what? I'll look into it for fun RC for sure. I'm gonna look into it. It's worth it. Thank you for stopping by. All right, guys, good night. Peace. Love you. And some of you, others of you, nice to meet. And bonsoir.